Cool. So you back home?
I love the home. Yeah, definitely. Where was I?
Wait, I don't know. I just didn't understand your texts. I thought you were in Montana.
No, that's actually coming up this weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm
Gotcha.
leaving on Friday and I'll be gone until Tuesday. I come back Tuesday. Yeah, going to
Gotcha. So you were
Helena.
just training. You were training.
When?
I don't know. You know what? I just didn't understand your text. That's all.
No, that's my bad. My bad.
No, that's
You
good.
know how sometimes when you text you like it's in your head, it sounds good, but then sometimes when you put out you read it like, oh, maybe it wasn't as clear as I thought it was.
I don't
So
think it's you. Just so much can be lost in translation with regards to my brain. You know what I mean?
well, I think just text message in general, to be honest. It's
Yeah.
funny, people text and I'm like, man, people take things out of context
Yep.
when we think about it. So yeah, bro, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I'm here still South Carolina till Friday morning. And then I leave out to Montana for some work. And then my next trip after that will be in May, headed back to Cali, doing some work in Cali. So excited for that. Yeah.
Definitely link up when you get here. Hopefully, May. I'll still be here. Well, hopefully we can link up, man. We're so busy. I've
Yeah.
heard.
No, no.
I've heard you're just as busy as me from the people I talked to recently. Doing a little research on you.
Yeah. No doubt, no doubt. We can unpack all of that, man. And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that keeps us going. I mean, to be honest, like if I don't stay busy, if I don't stay complacent, I mean, if I get complacent, like that's when I'm not productive.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
it's like, who do you give your work to? You give to the busiest person in the room. And I know some people be like, nah, you should always give it to the person who doesn't have the work. But no, wait a minute. They're busy for a reason because they're getting stuff done. And even if they don't do it completely, they'll know who to get it done versus just giving it to someone just chilling. You know the story of what's his name? King David.
Do I King David? No, no. Tell me
So
what?
that's why I always tell people
Yeah.
King David, I mean, solid role model as you can be, right, in the Bible. But the one day, my man decided to stay back and not go to war was the day he saw naked Bathsheba. Yep, he saw her. He was just out there. He was just chilling and he was like, oh, who's that? And he committed adultery the one and only time.
Oh,
Because, and literally, if you look at the Bible in the scripture, it says he was on the couch. They use the word couch. So my man was just like, he didn't go for that whatever reason. He was comfortable. I mean, he had a status, and yeah, he saw Bathsheba, and that was it. Temptation, bro. You know what I
damn.
mean? The one and only time. Granted, he repented and everything else, but that was just the lesson that I got from that. I was like, yo, don't be lazy, because the moment you stay around, the moment you're isolated, the moment you aren't doing anything is when you will just get caught up doing anything.
Yeah.
So
Damn,
yeah.
King David. All right. That's cool. I'm gonna look into that. I'm like super into, I'm not gonna say super, but like I like reading, or I'm interested in history,
Yeah.
like just in general. Like I love
Yep.
history podcasts and just that's the cool thing about podcasts. People will just kind of drop these little tidbits and I'll go down rabbit holes. I'm gonna read about King David and his little adventures of being lazy.
Yeah, Bathsheba, man,
Yeah.
he was on the rooftop and she was naked, bro. Just he saw her taking a bath and he was like, "Who's that?" and
I,
and being the king, bro, being the king,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So it was yeah, that was just
I think
the
she
situation.
knew what was going on, bro.
Hey, we used to call them the TT back in the days, right?
The TT.
Yes, it's inappropriate, but
Oh,
something tactics. We'll just keep it at that.
gotcha. We're gonna have to, yeah, we'll keep that under. We'll talk about that later.
But yeah, man. But yeah, bro. So,
Should I introduce you?
yeah, whatever you want, bro. I'm with it. My bad. I'm
I never
jumping
introduced
in.
my guest. It's so messed up. But I always do a little link and I do. But so yeah, I have I have brother Rye, the inspiration guy, on the Tap Good Talk podcast today. Welcome, man.
Yeah.
What's your
Glad to
last
be
name?
here. So Ramirez,
Oh, Ryan
Ryan
Ramirez.
Ramirez is my legal name. Bro Rider Inspiration, guys, what they know me on in the streets. Now I'm
Yeah.
playing, but
Everybody
in the
calls you
church
Bro Rye,
houses.
dude. Everybody I talk to is like, oh yeah, brother Ryan. I know him.
Right on. That's actually been one of my goals. Is when my name comes up, right? Like, because I got originally got the name in ministry, but then it just ended up being more than just ministry, right? Like coming from the Filipino and Polynesian culture, growing up with a lot of like Hawaiian Samoan influence, and the whole brother, and of
Mhm.
course bruh, bro, right? So just it just turned into like I don't want us to be just connected to the church, which I think is great, right? True story. One time I was in the Philippines in Palawan,
Okay.
and just with my wife, my in-laws, and we're just ready to go into the cave, right? And do the whole like cave adventure out of nowhere, bro. Real talk. Brother Rye, Brother Rye. And I'm just like,
Uh,
what? And automatically, right? It was like, oh, someone from church. And
wow.
so it was one of the sisters in Christ that I had back in Vallejo. She was with her mom. And of course, you know how it goes. What's up, auntie?
Yeah.
We just,
Yeah.
I'm like trying to register the name and the face.
Yep.
Um, and then, she's like, remember, bro, right from church, right? So it's like definitely something that I'm, you know, proud of in that sense. But it's also like, yo, I want to treat you like family. I want to be your little bro. I want to be your big bro. I want to be, that brother. Like, and that's kind of my approach, with the
Yeah.
whole identity piece around that is like, I want you to know when I come through or when we come through and we hang out, it's family.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not always, yeah, it's not always pretty, but it's gonna be family. I'm gonna say some things that might sting a little bit. I might, do some things that are out of pocket in a loving way. But I
respect.
think that's the beautiful thing about family. So, bro, right, that's kind of where it started, where it originated, but now it's like trying to heighten that to a whole like secular level, cultural level, not just the church. Granted, that's where it rooted from. So
Gotcha. Well, we definitely you definitely have a welcoming energy. Just for our listeners out there, me and Bro Rai, we just met like a month ago, and not even in person. And the first time we talked, I was like, oh, okay, because just me being me, I'm a little gun shy, meeting people, and then there's just right away if there's gonna work or not. And man, here we are. You know what I'm saying? Shout
yeah,
out to
yeah.
Sid for connecting us. Shout out
Yeah,
to
well, I mean, in reality, shout out to Tapioca Talk, right? So
okay,
I'm
there you go.
excited to
Yeah,
be
you're right.
here, and really have this opportunity. And I just say that because as I was on search for podcasts, I try to be very mindful of my time and what I take in. But I'm always trying to listen to fellow Filipinos, right? Fellow Filipinas that are doing things in spaces that I'm interested in getting in, or just just looking to see what's real, just trying to tap in, literally tap in. So I tapped in with Tapioca Talk and saw a bunch of your episodes, and was like a lot of stuff relatable. And then when I saw the one with Sid and what was my man, the lawyer,
Yeah, Will. Shout out
Will, yeah, yeah, there you go. And
to
I saw that episode, just a lot of that stuff resonated. And I was like, man, so I just hit sit up, and then we had some mutuals at the church, and then yeah, and so here we are. Then we had our first meeting literally just online. I'm pretty sure I saw you at some point at at Peace Love and Boba,
yeah.
probably just in passing, as a faithful patron. But yeah, so just again, just the beautiful thing about technology, right? I always say it's a
Yes.
gift and a curse. And in
Yeah.
in this case, it's definitely going to be a gift. So
Yeah.
appreciate you.
This is actually my very first um like Zoom podcast. So this is interesting. This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool.
First of many.
Yeah, I hope so. Oh yeah, you're right, because I'm not gonna
Yeah.
be in the United States for a while.
Well, I mean, obviously you'll get some real talk out there, but I mean,
Yeah.
just if you want to stay connected with your with your folks out here out west.
Yeah. This is like a perfect tester. This is kind of what it's gonna be like. But definitely I will find people to interview out there, and hopefully in Tagalog, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see, but that's for a later conversation.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
So I had a couple questions for you. I think the first one I wanted to get into is once again, like I said, you're fairly well known, especially within the Catholic community. My cousins definitely knew who you were right away. And then when I talked to my sister was like, "Who do you got this week?" And I was like, "I got this guy named Bro Rai, the inspiration." I said, "The inspiration guy," and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's the dude that raps at church." I was like, "Yep, that's him." So I wondered, like, what made you take the leap to want to take on the what for lack of, what is it called again? What you were doing at Mount Carmel? You were doing the.
So yeah, I was the youth minister.
There you
I
go.
was a youth minister there, and I was a confirmation teacher at the same time.
Yeah.
So just kind of a little backstory to even OLMC, because born and raised in Vallejo, my cradle to grave Catholic, so born and raised Catholic, and I went to St. Basil's, is where I did most of my ministry, right? So
Okay.
Teen Apostles in Christ, SBYG, and yeah, that's when there was a time where one of our teachers, rest in peace, Chuck Durley, he was like, he opened up a newspaper and it was like, Vallejo teen dies in gang fight, and I'm like, dude, this Sunday school, hold on, this dude is reading the paper. Now, mind you, Chuck Durley from the Bronx, big, tall African Americans, who remind me of Patrick Ewing, right? He's one of my first, I call him the original fire starter, because he opened my eyes that day. He started reading this article. Folks was running out the room, bro. They crying because they're related to my man that passed away. And he just keeps reading the article. And then finally he closes with, man, if we don't start taking God serious, this kind of stuff's going to keep on happening. So it kind of woke me up, right? Because I was just going through the motions, right? Going to church like most people, we just go through it, make our parents happy, just kind of just do the Catholic aerobics, kneel, sit, stand, right? And just make grandma happy, right? Whatever it is. But it was in that moment, I was like, okay, this dude was relatable. And so fast forward, I ended up getting in a confirmation class, worst kid in the class. True story. I'm actually going to be sharing this story in Montana. So luckily this podcast will come out later, but I was the worst kid in class, man. I was like, I didn't want to be there. Last time I was at church was in second grade. I love my mom, love my dad, but they didn't put me through the traditional Sunday school like most parents should. Let me just use that word, should. So I got my first communion and boom, your boy was out. Yeah. Like legit. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull this up since we are gonna be on screen. Let me see if I could pull this off. I wasn't prepared for this one, but I could do it. Boom. Oh, hold on, my bad. Here we go. Oh, wrong one. Yeah. And bam, there I am.
Look at that little bad kid. I'm just
kidding.
Check
it out, man. No, for reals, right? I told my mom, I was like, Ma, look, you didn't fix my hair.
You got a mullet.
Bro, I got mullet. I was like, I like to show my teeth. I'm a smiler. And, Filipino moms, right? Honey, but it don't matter, huh? Look at what's most important. It's Jesus, right? And I'm like, was that Photoshop? It's old school Olin Mills picture. But when I look back, right? Because I was like, man, I look like I was about to fart. Just, got the little clip on tie right there. But when I think about just this time in my life, like I didn't go to Sunday school until high school. So you can imagine my mom, like, Sunday morning, you got confirmation. I'm like, what? Comfort who? She's like, confirmation class. I was like, oh, Mom, I'm in high school. I don't do that no more. She's like, I'll see you in the car in 20 minutes. I was like, So, so I definitely can relate to most young people's faith journey in that sense. But then this teacher just kept it real with me. And then I went to confirmation class that same year because I wasn't confirmed. They went into this class like, anyone not confirmed? And I was like, yeah, right here. So they sent me to a different class where I met Stan and Annabelle, my confirmation teachers. Rest in peace, Annabelle. She passed away 2001, brain aneurysm after having her second baby, 31 years old. And I just remember she never gave up on me. Really? I was the worst. I was the worst in the class, but for us in the back, I'm out here. I mean, it's all public school kids. I go to Vallejo High. Folks from Hogan High, Hogan Spartans. We didn't have Jesse Bethel at the time, but I probably would have been trying to funk it up with them too. But I was coming in there like, what's up, bro? This is North Vallejo, baby. Yeah, Vallejo. Yeah. I mean, I'm out here, getting, growing up in Vallejo, a lot of family, my older cousins, they paved the way on the streets for me to not have to be in the streets. Just keep it that way. So I got love for my kuyas, man, because, it had this like protection bubble, so to speak.
Yes.
So it was like, yo, that's right. He does the church thing. Let him go. So I'm still going to parties. I'm DJing in high school. I'm still in the life, but not of it.
Yeah.
Right. And so fast forward, after confirmation, I'm a young adult and I'm like, man, I'm still trying to figure it out. I was at SF State, still DJing. Got to a point, man, I DJed a huge party in Vallejo, graduation party, ended up getting shot up.
Wow.
And then here I am on Sunday morning teaching second graders about First Communion.
Interesting.
And it was like, all right, man, what's up? Like, here you are. I love my boys, all of my DJ crew, different variations. what's it called? DJ Febreze, DJ Dom Sig, Will Vallejo, Jason Cabrera, the OGs. Like, here we were, but I was like, how am I DJing all this stuff on Saturday, Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday I'm like teaching kids about a whole different life.
Okay.
And so that was a turning point for me. So I gave up DJing for the most part, those kinds of parties. Still did weddings, and I got asked to do MCing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, bro. So like when I look back at just being that worst kid, sleeping, trying to start fights, trying to like get at all the chicks from all the other all the other schools. I mean, I'm that kid, bro. I was like, during prayer, I'm trying to find the cutest girl in the class. I'm about to stand right next to her because I'm about to hold her hand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I ain't trying to do this, bro. I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, let's let's do one of those.
Yeah. That's when you know it's real. That's when you know it's real.
Palms sweaty and everything. Prayer's already done, and your boy's like, just, and I'm like, but I mean, again, like, just that's just what it was pre-retreat, pre-confirmation. And yeah, so then went through my retreat and just realized, man, there's a better way. Because even in my heart, all the stuff I was doing, the way I was talking to women, the way I was treating folks, like just the stuff I was involved with, luckily it didn't get too bad to the point where I, ended up in jail, dead, or anything like that. But I was around it where it could have been. And I'm just like, nah. So fast forward, get married in Vallejo to my beautiful bride, about to be 14 years this year, Danielle Ramirez. And we moved to Fairfield because I'm from Vallejo, she's from Fairfield. Ended up going to Fairfield, and I did not want to go to the square, right? No disrespect. All our Tap Talk listeners, I got love. L7.
Yeah, I feel you though, because I wasn't ever trying to go to Vallejo back then either.
So we ended up going to OLMC, and it was a church that she grew up in. She wasn't going actively, but she ended up going there when she was little. So I said, okay, let's give it a try. I remember the dome church looked like a golf ball. And then all of a sudden we went to mass and we bought a house in Fairfield. I was like, well, this is the closest church to us outside of Holy Spirit. That's where my parents went. And I was like, no, let's try something new. So we went to OLMC, and then I tried to find my daughter. At the time, she was almost 12 or 13. And I was like, is there a youth group here? Is there anywhere for her to get connected? And again, just to like fast forward, and there was a huge gap, but I was like 350 pounds, unhealthy, working at Napa State Hospital, just grinding. I was a psych tech, just making that skrill. I was like all about the bag. But I stopped going to church faithfully. I stopped serving because I was, up until I worked at Napa State Hospital, I was, volunteering at the church retreats, just being as active as I could. And I used the whole excuse of, man, I got to get a real job. I got to pay these bills, adulting, right? And so I fell into that trap in the sense that I acted like I had no time to serve. I acted like my job and my family and money was more important than 1 hour a week at church or just helping out with the youth, whatever it was. So there was a huge gap until OLMC. And then finally I was like, I got to get back on, got to get my health right. Something ain't clicking. So I volunteered for, I remember, First Communion, Chaz Federigo. Shout out to Chaz Federigo. She was one of my teachers with me in second grade. And then I was getting these kids fired up. And someone came upstairs and was like, what's going on in here? Because I had the kids just yelling and screaming like I was doing raps with them and just bringing the faith, just bringing the energy. And someone was like, the word got around. There was this dude at the CCD, just, getting kids fired up and, in a positive way, having them cheer and chant, and, just getting excited to go to class. And then confirmation, opportunity to teach confirmation came up. And of course, I was like, man, I'm always about confirmation. That's what changed my life. And then they were like, hey, we need a youth group. We haven't had one for like 5 years or something like that. And I was like, okay, like I could help, like whatever you need, I'll support. So there was like a group of adults that met, bro. There's like 20 of us. And then and me and my wife, Danielle, were like the youngest couple in there. Right. And again, all well-intentioned adults.
Yes.
But bro, I just felt like the connect wasn't there. Like y'all want to do what? Y'all, we do a crossword puzzles like for a youth group? Like, and again, in my mind, nothing against the crossword puzzles. There's a time and a place for everything. But, folks was trying to invite kids over for, crackers and crossword puzzles, bro. And I was like,
Yeah. That ain't
we
gonna
can
work.
add that. Let's add that into something, right? And then it went from like 20 adults down to like 6. And we said, you know what? God is gonna provide this. So we went for it, man. My wife and I said we prayed on it. We're like, all right, we want a place not just for our daughter, but for the youth that are here in this program, the confirmation kids. And we had an ice cream social. And that's when I ended up making pulpit announcements. And when I would make a pulpit announcement, a couple of them, I just did spoken word, bro. Came off top.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
I literally, I remember my first one. I go to the pulpit. This is after mass, right? Right before during announcement time. I'm like, now here we go again. Let me represent. When it comes to Jesus, I'm never hesitant with every word that I say and every thought that I pray. It comes from the Holy Spirit and done the Jesus way. Because we're living in a world that is crazy, insane. The hate is out of control, and there was so much pain. There was a lack of respect. Priorities all messed up. Family and friendships going corrupt. Getting caught up in the game with greed and jealousy. If there is no God, there is no LOVE. So we started the army of God known as TAG, straight coming out of OLMC. But no matter where you're from, we're on the same team, doing it for God, if you know what I mean. So let's stop all the hating, continue to pray, and keeping God as our focus, man. I'm just saying. Hey, and that was it. And I was like, what's up, y'all? Bro, Rye, blah, blah, blah. Just went through the whole, if you're a young person in high school, we want to meet you. We're having an ice cream social. And then from that point, recruited some of my Vallejo folks.
Yeah.
And was like, yo, let's show them the faith the way we grew up in it. Hand dances, step routines, relatable music, but all within church teaching. All appropriate, all reverent.
Yes.
And then that's just how it started, bro. And 10 years later, like here we are. So yeah, and that just kind of branched out to like, hey, we heard about you. Can you give a talk at this church and that church? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like, just here to serve, whatever you need, whatever I could do. And so I just wanted just to share young people, like, you could still be you. You're supposed to actually still be you in the church, and just bring your flavor to it.
Yes.
As long as you're learning the teaching and understanding it, and not to say that you're going to agree with every single thing right off top, because that's the biggest thing as Catholics. Like you had posted yesterday on Instagram, like the church is at war with itself. I'm in a theology class right now where it's like we are under what we call perpetual construction, which means never ending construction. The church is actually a place for the broken, for the wounded, for the hypocrites. There will never be a time where church will never have hypocrites. It'll always happen. It's just going to look different.
Yeah.
So remember, the church is holy, but not all the people in it are. Yes. And I think that's where a lot of people's misconception is, oh, you rock with the church, so you should be perfect. That's actually the opposite. It's like, oh, you broken. You sin. You probably did some sinning right before you got here. But you're here. You're constantly under construction. And I think that's where, perspective comes in. And that's just kind of where I was like, I want young people to be not attracted to my rap, right? I don't want them to be attracted to me. I want them to be attracted to he. However, if I could be a vessel just to get them to open their eyes, like when Chuck Durley was like, Vallejo team dies in a gang fight.
Yeah.
That was it. I was like, so how can I just get people's attention enough? Right? It's like marketing. I'm learning this in marketing, right? How do we get people's attention enough to even try it?
Yeah.
To even just give it a taste. So yeah. And then this one thing led to another. I just work at the hospital full time, worked in youth ministry. And then along the way, I became a SEL educator. So I'm the feelings guy at assemblies. I still do it 8 years, working with a nonprofit, teaching young people how to manage their emotions, right? It used to be called anti-bullying. Okay. But what we learned is it's just SEL, social emotional learning. We hear it a lot now. And all it means is your social life, your emotional life affect your learning. Like if you ain't got no friends at school, you're having problems socially, you're not learning. If you got emotions going on, mad, sad, frustrated, whatever, you ain't learning. That's all SEL is, right? And the reality is, how do you manage that? What behaviors do you have? So we teach self-awareness, self-regulation, just the 4 pillars: healthy communication, restorative justice. So I'm doing Soul Shop, which is the nonprofit, OLMC, and Napa all at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah. Straight up.
Wow.
Straight up. And
mind you, I have to ask real quick.
Yeah.
You're doing all of this pretty much for free, right?
So not the hospital job,
Yeah, but like,
the social emotional learning, I was getting paid. There was,
okay, okay.
small pay. And then
Mhm.
after about a year, after about a year, after volunteer work with the church, they asked me to take the position.
Okay.
Otherwise, they would have to put it out. So the way the church works is they'll have to put it out, and if someone else applies for it, they'll get it. And so again, and mind you, I'm no formal education
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
I dropped out of SF State because I was living that life, academic probation on, right? Nothing to hide there.
I've been there before.
You know what I'm
I've
saying? And
definitely been
so,
there.
it's funny because I was telling people like I got dropped from SF State, but now I'm at Franciscan University, which is one of the most prestigious Catholic universities in the
Okay.
country, right? So it's like, oh, okay,
It's funny how that works out.
right? Not my time, but God's time. And so I'm like, I'm not even behind. This is what God meant, right?
There you go.
Delayed does not mean denied. And so even though I might be delayed on my education, I'm not going to be denied of it. So while I was doing that, again, just full transparency for the park for anyone thinking of youth ministry, it's true what they say, like you're not going to be balling working for the church.
Yeah.
I was at an hourly rate, and granted, I didn't really care about the money in the sense because I had the hospital job and I had social emotional learning. So, but I knew that I
Yeah.
had to take the position. So literally I was on the books for 10 hours a week on the book for 10
Yeah.
hours a week was what I was paid for pretty much the duration of the 10 years, 9 years.
Yeah. That's what I was really trying to point out. Like
Yeah.
the fact that for the listeners, I hope you all know that you're not doing this for the money.
No,
You know what I mean?
no.
Like I'm surprised that you were getting paid, honestly. So
Yeah.
just
Well,
to like
most,
prove the point that you're doing this out of passion and your
yeah,
love for God. So
absolutely.
much respect there,
Absolutely.
brother.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then, then the opportunities came up for me to speak at different conferences. And the first maybe year or two, I was like, hey, whatever I'll do for free, pro bono. I'll get to the point where, I'm good. And then when it's traveling, time away from my family, all those factors started coming in. And then I started taking less work at the hospital and, just started trying to balance it out is when 2014, I left the hospital full time.
And you
Took the leap
started
of,
just doing what you do now full time.
yeah. Yeah. I
Wow,
said,
man.
I was like, man, 10 years in, 11 years in, state job, good benefits, good pay. I mean, by the time I left the hospital at Napa, where I was like what we call an Uber. I just taking a golf cart, driving patients to the security center, back to their units because it was a locked facility. But I was at one point, I was like 42 an hour. Right? I'm not throwing that out there because because I'm trying to be because obviously I don't have the job anymore. But
Yeah,
who would give that up? Just driving a
exactly.
golf cart all day. But like I tell people, my heart wasn't beating hard enough.
I
My
love
heart
hearing that.
wasn't beating hard enough, man. And I was there making the bag, good money, mom's happy, got all these material things. And granted, hey, all my friends and family, whoever catch this, Napa State Hospital, I always have love for that place because I got to travel the world because of, the money that I made there. I got to show my wife the world and we still are traveling, but like, we didn't have the things that we were afforded without a good paying job. So not even knocking the hospital job or any of our healthcare worker families out there, friends. But for me, I was like, my heart just wasn't beating hard enough. So I thought the hardest conversation was going to be with my mom because she was pumped. You know how it
Mhm.
is. And she was pumped when I graduated. She was telling all of her friends and just, the graduation party was huge when I graduated, the program. And then I got my board, I passed my boards. And then I told her, I was like, all right, mom, I got to talk to you because I was telling her I was going to quit. You know what I'm saying? And so she's like, what's up, honey? I was like, well, I'm going to leave the hospital and I'm going to speak full time. And I thought she was going to be mad. I thought she was going to cry or something, but she said, finally. I was like, finally? What you mean? She was like, honey, you've always wanted to do work with the kids. I'm not worried about you anymore. I was like, what? She goes, you haven't asked me to borrow money for some years now. She was like, all I ever want for you to is be happy and know that you could take care of yourself. And now it makes sense, right? I don't know about you, RJ, growing up, but Filipinos like, what happens if I die, huh? What's going to happen if I die? I would hear that a lot,
Yeah.
but now I get it. Like back then it didn't make sense because like, mom, don't talk like that. But now it's like, no, no, no. They just want to know I'm gonna be okay and not have to be dependent on anyone else, or that I can stand on my own 2 feet. God forbid anything happens to them. And my mom was like, look, you pay your own bills, you got your own health care. You haven't asked me to borrow money for a while. You got a, she knows Danielle. She's like, you got a good, good wife. She's like, I'm not even worried about you anymore. And I was like, ah, light bulb,
Mm,
light bulb,
nice. Are you
so
familiar with the 10,000 hours
like, come on,
idea?
Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to point that out, man. You put in your 10,000,
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm not saying I'm like we're, or me or you and I, we're like these amazing. We are amazing, first of all, but like, we're not like one of the goats. Well, I don't even know. Maybe we are the goats, bro. But anyways, I put in my 10,000 hours at
Yep.
my parents' store, and I always like to bring that up for people who just volunteer that information. Like, I did my 10 years of this and that. And I'm like, oh, like this 10,000 hours idea, it makes sense to me. And hearing you putting your 10 years in and doing what you had to do of like learning the game of inspiring people, like it's like you said, it was meant to be for you, and even your mom knew it.
Yeah, that really was like the confirmation. I
Yeah.
didn't care about what anybody else said. Cause bro, you can imagine my coworkers, even family members. Bro, some of my best friends were like, hey, bro, are you sure about this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't have anything lined up. I just knew I wanted to speak. And I was like, you know what? If I don't take the safety net out, it ain't no good, right? It's like walking a tightrope is dope, period. But if you got that under you, it's really not all that. Like,
Yeah.
you got that safety net. Now you take the net out and you walk that tightrope, then I'm really gonna be like, intrigued, right? I'm really
Yeah.
gonna be impressed. And so I just, and here's the thing, y'all, all of our listeners out there, if you're in that situation, you're in transition, you're trying to figure out like, what's best for you. I mean, obviously, as a believer, I'm always gonna let God steer, as hard as that can be sometimes, because our human eyes will never grasp the idea once we like tap in deep. That's where realize what you'll realize comes in, So your eyes of faith. But as long as your support team, like my wife, she's the one like, let's go. If you want to do it now. I
Sweet.
got you. She's like, follow. This is where your heart is. And she's like, look, you're at Napa when during your lunch breaks and your downtime, you're always writing different material, different lesson plans. You're always working and rehearsing. You're using your soul shop tools at people at work, teaching them about managing emotions and model behavior to the parents, because I do parent nights and work with adults as well. She's like, you're always doing it.
Yeah.
And so she's like, just go. And so I was like, all right. And granted, even, my in-laws
Yeah.
questioned me because they're from
Mhm.
the old school. They both, went they both worked at Budweiser. They retired from Budweiser. So the pension, the 40 years put in your time.
Yeah.
Right. And then when the pandemic hit, it even got worse because I lost all my work,
Yeah.
which is what, ended up moving us this way, which again is just another blessing in disguise. So if
Beautiful.
you're struggling with making these decisions, I just say number one, just be really rooted with your support. So if you're married, right, your spouse, your partner, like they matter the most, really.
Yeah.
Everybody else is secondary. And
Yep.
if you and your spouse and your partner are on the same page, you're straight. Now, if you're single and your support team, I'm not talking about just like your best friends. I mean, because our best friends are always going to love us regardless. However, like go to the person who really wants what's best for you. And when you can figure that out, and that when you go through your ups and downs, they're going to be there to walk with you, right? Not save the day, not bail you out. I mean, in some cases you might need a little support in that, that way. But when you really have that core group where they're the ones that matter the most, and they're the ones that, the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing, I don't care what anybody else says.
Yeah.
To be honest, like, because I lay down, I let until God says it's time. I'm with my wife every day. She's the one who I gotta really face the most when I'm here in the office, when I'm out doing work,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And when you realize that and you're good and at peace with that, and you ain't worried about comparing yourself to other people, you ain't worried about what everybody else is doing and all of that, once you get true peace,
Agree.
and you'll move in a whole different way that will most people won't even be able to relate to, like you and I, 10,000 hours. Exactly. 10,000 hours of being in ministry. So when I do speak at the church events, I'm like, I've been doing this since I was a teenager, volunteering as a young adult. So I have 20 plus years experience in ministry. And then the last 10 or so were professionally as a, as a parish youth minister, as a paid, person. But I mean, that's just a title, but the
Yeah.
experience, the hours are there, the reps are there.
Yep. See, that's why conversations like the ones we're having right now are so important, because not everybody is afforded the same support. So me personally, I'm so blessed, dude. I'm super lucky. The fact that, when I told my dad and my mom, I was like, hey, I don't want to work for you anymore. And I played a big role in working for them. They were like, you know what, son, do it. I'm like, so blessed. My wife, she was the one who told me, like, RJ is like, just like yourself, like, RJ, I know you're not happy here and you'll never be happy if you don't chase this passion of yours. And then something, people I don't bring up enough are my sisters, because I left them. I left them to work at my family's grocery store. It's one of the hardest jobs you'll ever have. And I was like, I need to do this purely out of, I don't know if it's selfish, but like, I just had to do this. And everybody was like, green light. And I don't think everybody has that, because I'll have friends, people on the pod, and they're like, the reason why I wasn't able to go over the threshold is because nobody was telling me you should do it. And that plays such a huge role. Like, just imagine if your wife wasn't supporting you in what you want to do, you're most likely not going to do it. It's so hard to tell your wife no, you know what I mean? So, once again, that's why it's so important. And that's why I like to bring people like yourself, because you need to hear that from somewhere. And that's why I think you have such a cool job, man, because inspiration is very important in times where you don't know which path to take. And that leads me to my next question. How are you inspirational on your bad days? Because I started this up almost 2 years ago, and I've come to find, like, when I'm not feeling good or something bad is going on in my life, I don't want to record. I don't want to talk to people. How are you able to maintain this throughout the years?
Yeah, no, thank you. That's definitely a great question. And just, again, a little context, right? Bro Ride, the inspiration guy, just actually was born out of the pandemic, the inspiration guy part, because I was just trying to figure out, how do people, remember Bro Ride? Because I always get Bro Re, because RHY,
Yeah,
Bro
yeah.
Re. So I'm like, no, Bro Ride, the inspiration guy. But actually, the inspiration, in just true context and full transparency, it represents the Holy Spirit, right? The Holy Spirit inspiration. I'm always inspired by the Spirit, whether it's in my faith-based work, my secular work, in my workout, my training, my weightlifting, whatever it is, that inspiration is deeper than me. So I say that when it comes to not wanting to get up or not wanting to record a pod or get to the gym or whatever it is, I always think about who is going to suffer because of that. Who is going to miss out because because my feelings got in my way? Who was gonna, what is the consequence? And I think that's really where a lot of folks, now I won't say get lazy, but they don't think about that. So for example, let's just say rent is due Friday. Let's say you broke. I promise you, you will find a way to have that money Thursday night, because the consequence is you being kicked out of the house. Like, there are times where, like, if we don't know the consequence of what we're doing, if we're what we're not doing, then if we don't know that, then we don't care, right? So, bro, I just wake up. I look over to my wife. She's a late sleeper. Right? She sleeps in. All right, but I look over to her while she sleep. That's enough. That's enough for me to get up and get moving. And again, just full transparency, tap talk, right? Tap yoga talk. Like, my wife is legally blind in one eye, and she's losing her sight in the other.
Oh, wow.
All she wants to do is see the world. She had a head, neck, and back injury because of assault at Napa State. And people wonder, why do I keep going? Why do I bring the energy? I go, why am I just going to continue to thrive? Because I need to show my wife the world, why she can literally still see it. People be like, man, where y'all traveling to now? And then people didn't realize, like, what's behind the motivation for me to take her to go see the world is because she literally may not be able to see it anymore longer. She literally, her head, neck, and back injury is only getting worse. Bro, there might be a point in my life where she might be in a wheelchair. And you know what? If that time ever comes, now catch this, y'all. If that time ever comes, I will be honored, honored to push that wheelchair because of all the time she pushed me in my life. So when I think about what inspires me to keep going, that's just one. And that one takes me far.
Yeah.
And then my daughter, she's 24, turning 25. And yes, young parents, we still learning. Again, High Feet of Holy, right? The new brand, High Feet of Holy for Bay Area folks. You know what that means, right? It's just this transition in this journey from going hyphy, rambunctious, out of control, to holy, meaning just being set apart, to being more respectful, right? Like it's a journey. It's not definitely far from where I need to be, but I know like this is the journey. And so my daughter, of course, seeing us growing up and doing the things that we were doing and the environments that we were, making for her, I was like, wasn't always proud of it now that I look back at it. But again, we were just doing the best we could. Right. And I said, and I tell parents all the time. So for young parents, older parents, yo, just know modeled behavior is key. Forget what you say, they're going to watch what you do. And I think that's, again, a hard truth. And so so when my daughter stopped going to church or being as active, of course, as parents, we're hurt, but we're not going to stop going to church. People would ask me, why are you still a youth minister if your daughter doesn't even go anymore? I'm like, I didn't do this for her. She was part of the motivation, but I'm doing this for God and for whoever comes through those doors. Like it's bigger than me and it's bigger than my daughter in that sense. Because then if I was doing it just for her and then I quit, that means I was doing it for her and not for God in the first place. And so anyways, back to just, this idea of like modeled behavior, right? Modeled behavior. So I'm gonna just show you this text we got the other day.
Yep.
Me and my wife. And I was like, so you talk about inspiration. So I told my wife, I said, look, all we can do for her is just be the best example. All we could do is just continue to, to do, whether it's our faith, business, entrepreneurship, mindset, health, like all we can really do is just be the example. Because at 24, 25, like you ain't telling, we look at us, like no one can really tell us what to do. Of course we'll listen and we'll be respectful for the most part, right? But ultimately it was like, it's still gonna be our choice. And so out of nowhere, all right, let me see if I could just, all right, let me just try to get this. I'm gonna just put it right there,
There
right?
you go. Mm-hmm.
Like, thank you both for always showing me that patience and faith and hard work can get you far. You both set the best example, and I'm so thankful God put you in my life.
Yo, man.
24.
Yeah.
Her Kobe year. And parenting never stops. If you have adult children, it never stops. It's just a different chapter of parenting. It's not 18, you're free, you're out. No. Like even my parents now, they're still showing me, I'm still learning from them, even though they're not direct lessons. But if we don't model that behavior, then what? And again, we're on the other, leaving our daughter was one of the hardest things we had to do, going 2,000 plus miles away. But we knew we had to do it, my wife and I, so that we can continue growing, not as as a couple, but even in the work that we know we were called to do. And so when we talk about inspiration, my daughter is watching. She's seeing dad and mom. And does it mean it's perfect? Absolutely not. She knows we got our fair share of challenges, but we also know how to work through those because of the tools that we have, because of the communication, like all the different things. We took marriage retreats. We've done the DISC assessment, personality assessment, so we can understand how, as a family, we best communicate and how we best thrive. Man, since we did this assessment and realized our personalities, we're like, oh, that makes sense. That's why this never worked for you and this never worked for me. So now we like, again, just a machine that's like respecting each other, growing with each other, loving each other. And more importantly, when all else fails, we got each other. So when I think about just those two inspirations are just two of the biggest driving forces for me. But then of course, with the content that I put out on my faith-based page or my inspiration page, my mindset page, right? I'll get messages. Thank you. I needed this today. Man, I never thought of it that way. That's a dope way to think about that. like my 40 days, 40 words project, 40 words, 40 days. And I'm bringing back folks who maybe not even be as involved or active in church to drop a word of encouragement, but they are part of my faith journey. And what it's been doing for them is they're like, bro, I haven't been to church in a while, but this actually makes me want to think of going back. So my boy Antonio Valenzuela, I just put him on day 19. He was like, bro, I ain't gonna lie, you asked me to do this for you, but I didn't know why you asked me, because I don't really go to church anymore. I don't really practice like we did back in the days. I'm like, that's okay, but we still had that moment. You still made an impact on who I am today. So just share what would you want to hear? What would you want your kids to hear? What would you want other people to hear when it comes to staying strong during Lent? And I said, what did you used to tell yourself when you were observing Lent? Maybe you're not doing it now, and that's okay. But now he's like, and I got to start getting back. Right. So it's like inspirations are going to come from the people you see and know, and from the many people you don't know and you don't see. I'm thinking about it, bro. Tapioca Talk has inspired me in a lot of different ways from all the different episodes. I'd be seeing Roby. I'm like, man, that's my boy Roby. Like, man, like me and Roby go way back.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we got some stories, man. Ask Roby when Bro Rye and Sis D would come through during some of his hardest times of his life. Like young Roby, high school Roby.
Yeah.
Like we be up at the house, like, yo, we got you, bro. You ain't alone with this, all the different struggles that him and I, relate to. And more importantly, he would just had a support during, a couple of years in his life.
So,
And even though it was just that small window, I'm always praying and always supporting all my youth, no matter where they are in their journey. Right. And so that's another level of inspiration. Even though I may not see the young people that I served and now they're living their lives and it might be way off than what it used to be when they were involved with church, no judgment still. Hey, you went prodigal. Everybody goes prodigal. I went prodigal. Everybody's going to go prodigal.
What do you mean by when you say prodigal?
So I'm sorry. Yeah. So context, a prodigal son. Have you heard that story in the Bible?
Probably, but go ahead.
So basically, prodigal son, you got two brothers, and what ends up happening is I'll make sure to get you the scripture verses so you can put it in the link. But what ends up happening is two brothers, they're working for their dad. Dad's really wealthy, and the dad's like, one of the brothers like, yo, I want my money now. I want my inheritance now. And his dad's like, well, what? I'm not even dead yet. You want your inheritance? And he's like, yeah, I want it now. So he ends up taking his money and he goes off and he squanders it. I mean, my man's living the life, right? You name it. He's balling out of control, partying, living it up to the point where he runs out of money. Then he runs out of that lifestyle and ends up having to work. And he's like, man, even my father's servants eat better than me. And now, mind you, the other son, the faithful son, he's still there, still working, still doing his thing. And then finally, right, he decides, he swallows his pride. The son swallows his pride and he comes home. And his dad notices him from a distance. Now, this is the key part of the story I always tell people, like he noticed him from a distance. Like, when you know a family member who's coming, but just by the way they walk, right? They got that specific walk. Yep. So dad, he didn't, and then the dad stayed home, did what he had to do. But then finally the son came home and he noticed him. Boom, he runs out to him. Now, just the fact that a father's running to a child is we don't even see that now. I mean, not as much as maybe we see it now, but not as, before. He runs to his son. He covers him up, puts on the robe, the ring. Before he can come back into the community, he's like, yo, I need to get you hooked up. I don't want you coming back into the community in our home until it's the same way you left. Meaning, I love you so much. He didn't say, where you been? I told you so. He didn't make him feel bad. He didn't guilt trip him, right? And it's just the love of the father. And he just hooks him up. He comes back. And then he gets the fattest calf and they throw this huge party. And the faithful was like, damn, hold up. You throwing him a party? You used all your money, like he's salty. And the dad's like, son, what's mine is yours. Your brother was lost and now he's found, and he was dead. Now he's alive. And so I always remember that story. I think it's Luke 15, 11 through 32. And it's a reminder, like, yo, we're all going to have times in our lives where we go away and we try it a different way, where we try to live it by the way of the world and we go against our parents' teachings. I call our
Yep.
daughter,
Yep.
right? It's like the prodigal daughter, right? Our daughter. I mean, come on, it was hard for me, bro. She was getting caught up in some things that I got Fairfield, Vallejo, PD, got a whole bunch of law enforcement family and friends, and they hit me, be like, bro, we seen your daughter, the high school just getting, caught up in stuff. People, who work for different industries, towing industries for cars and stuff. And they hit me and I'm like, hey, just pray for her. The faith-based folks that hit me up, like, just keep praying for her. Right. She's prodigal. We've been there. I've been there. Like, again, SF State, academic probation. That wasn't because I was in school and I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
Right. I was prodigal, man. And I remember writing a letter to all my youth friends because I was the oldest in my youth group. And I remember going prodigal during my SF State days, prodigal from the church, from serving and all that. And I wrote this like long letter of just like asking for forgiveness and apologizing because I know they knew what I was caught up in. I know they heard about stuff that I was doing. I mean, social media wasn't big back then, but word of mouth was just as strong.
Yep.
And I'm still showing up. Sunday, I'm still showing up, even though, I was here, there, and everywhere. But again, the church is built for the weak and wounded.
Amen. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, my bad. I know I'm super digressing, but
Don't apologize.
that's
Please don't
that's that
apologize.
Holy Spirit, man.
It's
But
beautiful.
but yeah. So anyway, stories like that are just the ones of the folks that just inspire me to keep going. So if whatever you do, and it again doesn't have to be like on this huge. That's why I try to share like just a home example. And then if you are someone in the public eye, you are someone who works with communities, there are going to be a lot of people that you're touching and serving that you don't even know and that you'll never meet. My Annabelle, my confirmation teacher who died in 2001. Imagine it's 2022, bro. 21 years. And I'm still I'm part of the fruit of her labor. I'm the seed that she planted.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's seeing me from up top, but never in human, what I'm saying, like where I'm at. I was still in that transition phase. So just know, y'all, whatever you're doing, whatever, as long as your heart is pure, you keep your motives pure, and you just really are thinking about the other person or the other people in your life and the people you're serving, then there's always going to be someone that you're touching by the way you live your life, by the way you tell your story, by your accomplishments. And we may not hear them all, we may not see them all, and that's okay. But for me, that's really what inspires me. I know that there's someone waiting for a drop on IG and again, I've been bad. I haven't made any YouTube videos because I told myself I don't want to start YouTube again if I don't keep it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you.
So I said, I'm not going to record another podcast until I know. I don't care if it's once a month, twice a month. Like, if it's not going to be consistent, then I'm just letting the people down who are waiting for a drop.
Yeah.
So,
dude, first of all, I guess, man, do you have time for referrals? Because the past 15 minutes have been very powerful, man. I didn't understand until I'm talking to you now, like why you do what you do, but now I get it. You are good, dude. You are good. And you know what? I don't care if you have time right now. I am going to refer people, because if you just spend 10 minutes talking to Bro Rye, man, I'm fired up right now, bro. I want to go back to church. Oh, I went to church last weekend, but but dude, wow, man. I'm not like blowing smoke up your ass, brother.
I appreciate it, bro.
This has
means
been
a lot.
very powerful. Oh yeah, and I have to point this out. I wanted to point it out, but you were on your spill. I started tearing up when you were telling that story about your wife. That's some real shit, man. Any husband, and as a future father talking about your daughter, that's some real shit. I was tearing up, man. I wish it could have shown. You know what I mean? But like,
yeah, no,
that is some real shit, dude. Like, much respect to you, man. I get it. I get why you do what you do. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate it. And again, right, new levels, new devils, and yeah, it's funny because again, I'm just spirit led in that sense, and I didn't even think I was going to share that story or any of these stories so far with y'all. But I love, again, your hosting, your ability. That's your gift. Hosting and asking questions, right? Curiosity. In my social emotional learning workshops, we talk about the idea of educate, right? You have preach, teach, preach, and educate. And teaching is giving information, right? Preaching is, if you don't do this, then this is going to happen, right? And then there's educate. And we actually changed the word to reach. But when we think about all three, they're important. We need a balance of all of them. But most of us grow up in the heavy teach, heavy preach, very little reach, or very little educate. And the word educate comes from the root word of educare, and educare means to pull in. And how do we pull it out of someone, right?
Gotcha.
Is to ask questions, right? So you're a great question asker, even if you don't have that many, and that, which is great because it leaves so much space. So just shout out to you and what you do. And back to what you're saying, like at the end of Lent, part of the new transition into what I'm doing now is using the technology as a blessing. Is I'm actually going to be starting small communities. So there's going to be a faith-based community that I'm just going to start with, like private groups, Facebook, Kajabi, again, just to kind of feel, again, just come hook up an hour, 2 hours, a week. Here's the link. Just come say what's up. I'm just going to ask that you just really come like with intentions of really
Gotcha.
trying to be being part of a conversation. And granted, of course, people might just want to come and to listen, which is fine. But as you know, is always the answer's already in the room. I always believe that the answer's already in the room. So if we're not sharing, then we probably aren't sharing an answer to somebody else's situation. But just looking on how to really do that organically, again, just free opportunities to connect. And then if there is, just trying to build an ecosystem, right? I'm just going to lay it all out now. I'm trying to build an
Oh,
ecosystem
please. Yeah.
where we have levels of content, levels of support where people can get to know us, right? And you and I, we're kind of working on some as well. Know us, like us, and trust us, right? And so just trying to develop an ecosystem where people can come in, people that relate to us, people that, again, like I always say, the saying, right? Your sheep will know your voice, or your tribe will know your vibe, right? That type feel, and just really building a solid community of folks who are just wanting better for themselves and their families, whether it's spiritual, emotional, physical, right? So like because I've dabbled into all different arenas, health, and all that, I'm thinking of like just, generational health, at the end of the day, generational health, where we can really provide support, but also being mindful of our time, right? Because I know you, me, Sid, a bunch of us who are wanting to do things for our community also understand that if we don't take care of what's going on at home, then how's that going to work? So yeah, so just looking at what that looks like in terms of community. So it might be just topics per week with Q&A, built in every session, but whatever's just going to feed the needs of the folks that we serve is what my intention is and what my heart wants to do. And
Beautiful.
so yeah, and I'm hoping that you and I and NSIG can create that as well for our community. So
I think we can. I think we can. I feel like this episode deserves a part two, man. I have so many more questions I wanted to ask you. Maybe we should do something next week. I feel like this episode really deserves a part two. So
yeah,
we'll we'll make this happen again, man.
stay
I only
tuned.
say that because I see my recording limit coming up,
Okay.
and maybe we'll actually really bring Sid on for real. Because dude, man,
Yeah,
we're just so busy. That's the only
yeah,
thing. We're just so
yeah,
busy.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll make it happen. Maybe we'll just end it there because I want to make sure a part two happens. But that was
Okay.
you're amazing, man. I get it.
I
I get it.
appreciate it.
Like
No,
you do an
you as
amazing
well.
job, and I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, and just a quick acknowledgement. I just want to again
Please.
acknowledge you and all of the Tapioca Talk squad, current listeners, future listeners. Just know that from where I'm at in my lens, and I see Tapioca Talk, I just see what I see is not just what I see is just, I hate using the word just. What I see is a person with a huge heart for his family, for his community, for his businesses, and really just wanting to tap in, right? Tap in,
Hey,
tapioca, tap into to all of those around in the community that can also shed light and be of service. And the fact that you're willing to do that on the podcast and in real life. I mean, I know young people that you've mentored in your business at, Peace, Love, and Boba, who again, who wouldn't have those opportunities if it wasn't for your yes. So I'll just like kind of cap it there. Thank you for your yes in following your dream for entrepreneurship, and your yes for leaving your loved ones to work at the store for 10 plus years and learn the industry, right? Your yes for what you have coming up in the next couple months, and just leaving the country, right? I thought leaving the state was already hard, but leaving the country, just all the other yeses. And again, if we really look back, all the different areas we said yes to get to where we are. And I just want to just, really highlight that for you as well, because this wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for yes. Because I think you were talking about, even should I keep doing tapioca talk or not? And I know that came into the fold, and here we are. And we are blessed to just have the space and the freedom, right? We the owners, y'all. Ownership. Yep. If y'all listening, that's gonna be on our next. Put that on the next agenda. Ownership. For sure. We want to teach young people, or even our people, or our same age people, why it's important to have ownership. And I don't mean that everyone has to be an entrepreneur and a business owner, but we'll talk about that in the next pod. But if we start losing ownership, we start losing our freedom, we start losing our creativity, so on and so forth. Then we become what I used to call myself at Napa State zombie.
Hey,
and I'm not trying to live like a zombie. And we don't want any of our listeners, our community, to be living like a zombie. It's not life. Be fully alive, y'all. Fully alive.
Sir. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate the kind words, and hopefully we'll link up next week.
Yeah.
Appreciate
definitely.
you, brother. Thank
All
you.
right, man.
Peace out.
Have a good one. Peace.